Hello everyone, today we will be going over Geometry Chapter 1, Section 6 of the Big Ideas Math Common Core High School textbook. Our topic for today is describing pairs of angles, and our essential question is how can you describe angle pair relationships and use these descriptions to find angle measures? So starting off with some core concepts, we have complementary angles and supplementary angles. And basically the main differentiation is that complementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 90 degrees and supplementary angles are two angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. So this is a fun way to distinguish the two types of angles. For complementary, we have a C, and the C has one right angle. However, the S in supplementary makes two 90-degree angles, otherwise known as 180 degrees. So basically for adjacent angles, they are just two angles that share a common vertex and a common side, but do not have common interior points. So right here, angle 5 and angle 6 would be considered adjacent angles because they have this common vertex and then they have this common side. However, angle 7 and angle 6 are not adjacent angles. So let's move on to some exercises. In the figure, name a pair of complementary angles, a pair of supplementary angles, and a pair of adjacent angles. So for this, we have to remember our definitions that we just went over in our core concepts. So starting off with complementary, it's basically two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So we have angle CAB and angle RST. So 37 plus 53 equals 90 degrees. So that would be our complementary angles. Now for a pair of supplementary angles, there are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So angle CAD and angle RST, 127 plus 53 equals 180 degrees. So those would be your supplementary angles. Now finally, for your adjacent angles, we would have two angles that share a common vertex or common side. So as we can see here, angle CAB and angle CAD would be adjacent angles. So moving on, angle 1 is a complement of angle 2. The measure of angle 1 equals 62. Find the measure of angle 2. And so whenever you see M in front of the angle measure, that basically just means measure. So we see here that in this 90-degree angle, we have a 62-degree angle. And then we have this other adjacent angle. So all we have to do is subtract 62 from 90, and that totals to 28. So the measure of angle 2 would be 28 degrees. So basically we have to use our definition for supplementary angles for this problem. So what we do is we know that this entire angle is 180 degrees. This portion is 47. So we subtract 47 from 180, and that makes measure of angle 3 equals 133 degrees. So this is a more real-life application. When viewed from the side, the frame of a ball return net forms a pair of supplementary angles with the ground. Find measure of angle BCE and measure of angle ECD. So looking at this diagram, we can already tell that this entire angle equals 180 degrees. So we know that these two portions have to add up to 180. So if we add these two together and set them equal to 180, we can solve for x. So it will look like this after we start doing it. And then next, what we have to do is we have to evaluate when given x equals 34. So x equals 34 is not the answer. We have to plug it back into each of the angles. So once we do that, we use algebra and we solve. So we get the measure of angle BCE is 144 degrees and the measure of angle ECD is 36 degrees. So now back to some core concepts. We have linear pairs and vertical angles. So for a linear pair, it's basically just adjacent angles that are supplementary. So we have a non-common side, and one common side. So this would make these two angles a linear pair. So for vertical angles, we basically just have two lines that are crossing over each other. Usually it looks like an X. So we can see that by using this shape, angle 3 and angle 6 would be vertical angles, and angle 4 and angle 5 would be vertical angles. And the significance of this is that later on we would be using these vertical angles to tell what the angle measure is. So for example, if angle 4 was 55 degrees, angle 5 would also be 55 degrees. And if angle 3 was 77 degrees, angle 6 would be 77 degrees. So it's basically there's congruence on the opposite sides of these vertical angles. So now using our definitions from linear pair and vertical angles, let's use this knowledge into these next exercises. So identify all the linear pairs and all the vertical angles. So what we have to do is first find vertical angles and look for angles formed by intersecting lines. So as we can see here, angle 1 and angle 5 are vertical angles. As we can see, they kind of make this cross shape again. So now to find linear pairs, we have to look for adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. So as we can see here, angle 1 and angle 4 are linear pairs. So we can see this entire side. And angle 4 and angle 5 are also a linear pair. We can see this entire non-common side with this common side. So next, two angles form a linear pair. The measure of one angle is 5 times the measure of the other angle. Find the measure of each angle. So first we're just going to draw it out, and it's going to look something like this. So we have 5x and x. Then what we do is use the fact that the angles are a linear pair and they are supplementary. So remember, that's part of the definition of a linear pair. So what we do is add these together and set it equal to 180. So after using algebra, we can see that x equals 30. So when we plug it back into the equation, we know that one of the angles is 30 degrees and the other angle is 150 degrees. Okay, so finally, which one doesn't belong? Which one of these does not belong with the other three, and explain your reasoning. So as we look here, we can see that this entire angle is a 90-degree angle. The sum of these two angles is 90 degrees. Now we can see here that these angles form a linear pair, meaning that these angles sum to 180 degrees. And then again, these two angles add up to 90 degrees. So automatically we can tell that this is 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 90 degrees. So this is the one that does not belong. Please like and subscribe if this video was helpful and you want more content on the following geometry chapters. Thank you!